How you doing, ladies and gentlemen? It's Sally Pots and Pans coming to you live with the UFC North Carolina Raleigh picks, January 25th, this Saturday, Curtis Blaydes versus Junior Dos Santos. But to jump in, the first fight of the card, Nate the Train Landwehr, former N1 global champion, versus Herbert Burns, brother of Durinho, the 170-pounder, who has a fight coming up against Damian Maia. But at first glance, I really love this fight because not only are the styles complete opposite matchups, it just makes for a great fight because if you've watched Nate the Train's highlights, this dude just walks forward and is an absolute marauder and throws down. And although he has been dropped and put into some bad situations, he's proven that he can shed takedowns and has some decent submission defense. And after watching Herbert Burns, I actually have realized this is an interpretive statement, but I don't think his offensive wrestling is anywhere near as good as Gilbert Burns, who wrestled in college. But Herbert Burns, he's a lot more elusive on the feet, a lot more in and out movement, but he still seems very timid to let his hands go. And when he gets into close exchanges, he often plays possum a lot, and even if he isn't getting hit with too hard shots, he'll go down to try to lure opponents to get into his guard and get on the ground with him. And I really think it's very tough to win a fight on the scorecards in that matter. And no matter what, I think this fight is going to end by finish, whether it be Nate the Train finishing Herbert Burns in the second or third round, or Herbert Burns catching a Hail Mary triangle choke off his back in the first round after Nate the Train thought he put him away. But I'm going to say with a high confidence interval that I think Nate Landwehr is going to take this fight away, and I'm going to say this is going to be the fight of the night. All right, moving on to the next fight. We got the return of Brett the Pikey Johns versus Tony Gravely. And if you guys don't know what a pikey is essentially an Irish gypsy, and they just go around and they like to fight. And they're just dirty humans. They're like white trash. If you're a pikey, I'm sorry, bro, but it's the truth. You guys suck. But on the real, Brett Johns doesn't suck. He's coming off 2 losses in the UFC versus Pedro Munoz and Aljamain Sterling, who are perennial top 5, easily top 10 contenders at 135 pounds. And Brett Johns is a scrapper. He likes to put the pressure on. He likes to get in close. But he's been off for about 16 months now, and I think after all the damage he took, that might have actually benefited him. And Tony Gravely is a guy coming off the Contender Series and has a decent amount of losses on his record. But the thing is, he's fought about 6 times since Brett Johns has fought, and that activity is exactly why you see him as the favorite in the lines right now on an almost pick-em fight. And you look at Tony Gravely's record, losing to quality opponents like Patty Mix in Bellator, maybe a future champion, Ricky Bandejas, 135-pounder in Bellator as well, who defeated James Gallagher, a.k.a. the Conor McGregor imposter of Bellator, if you guys only know from the meme. But I'm going to say right off the bat here, Brett Johns is the more well-rounded fighter, and I could see Tony Gravely having success early with the takedowns, but as it goes, I really think Brett Johns is going to be able to make this a dog fight and pull out a decision, because when Tony Gravely's wrestling doesn't work, he just goes to more wrestling, and that is ultimately where he gets caught in bad scrambles and in exchanges on the feet that get him into trouble. And I'll ultimately see Tony Gravely getting submitted by Brett Johns in round 3. Okay, moving on to the next fight. Mama McCann versus Lena, the Elbow Queen Landsberg, coming in with Sarah McMahon as a minus 155 favorite after the pregnancy layoff. That's a little crazy for me, to be honest. And you've seen in her previous fights, I don't want to say she gives up, but when her heart and will are put into question, it seems like she folds sometimes. And Lena Landsberg, a general pretty big girl for the division who shut down Tanya Evinger and Macy Chiasson's takedowns and made it absolute dog fights and has been showing improvements from fight to fight. I'm going to say Sarah McMahon is going to have a dominant first round, but ultimately she is going to get destroyed in the second and third round and put in positions where I ultimately think she's going to fold, and Lena Landsberg is going to win by TKO. And the lesson of the early prelims today is take the under. Okay. Next fight, we got the biggest favorite on the card, Montel Jackson versus Felipe Colares. I understand why the line is where it's at, but it's borderline unplayable. And so is the over the under, because the reality of the situation is, on the feet, Montel Jackson's a great striker, but I honestly, in my opinion, don't think he goes in for the finish 100% of the time and doesn't have that killer instinct to go in there and just put guys away on the feet and follow up with high volume and ruthless power. But with that being said, Colares in his last fight got beaten from pillar to post in the first round and pulled a win out of his ass. And I'm going to say Montel Jackson is going to win by a decision, but stay off that line, ladies and gentlemen. Just enjoy this one. Montel Jackson's probably going to pick him apart from the outside. In the next fight, we've got Lucy Putilova versus Justine Kish, who's come up from 115 pounds. And seeing Lucy at a minus 170 on a 3-fight losing streak is quite alarming to me. And I think that is also a trap to everyone else if they haven't realized it. And they're just assuming that since Kish is coming up a weight class that she's going to get destroyed. But don't forget, this girl has gotten submitted by the older, less talented Shevchenko sister. And with that being said, I'm going to have to say Justine Kish is going to lose the first round and pull it back and get a win that's very close on the scorecards, but ultimately she's from North Carolina, and she's the hometown hero, and is probably going to get a slight nod in a women's fight classic decision. So moving on to the next fight, we have Arnold Allen versus Nick Lentz. Both of these guys' opponents falling out in Josh Emmett and Narimani. But Nick Lentz is going down to 145 pounds after saying it basically made him feel like he was dying to take a fight on short notice, where he was preparing to take a fight at 155, where I thought he looked pretty good. But in all honesty, I think this is a stylistic matchup that could make Arnold Allen fold, because yes, although he is in and out and has shown some prowess on the feet, in his last fight versus Gilbert Melendez, he should have put that man away. Gilbert Melendez is a legend, but to be honest, that was kind of a layup for you to just style on this man, and you couldn't put him away. So Nick Lentz, he might die making the weight. They might have a catch-weight fight. He might have to give up 30% of his purse. But I think he's one of the most live dogs on the card, because he will come after you. He'll get in your face. He'll grind on you. And I ultimately could see Nick Lentz winning by submission with a big upset versus Arnold Allen. And I'm going to take Nick Lentz at plus 215. Next fight, we got Bavon Lewis versus Daquan Townsend. Nothing much to say beyond Daquan Townsend is not UFC caliber. No offense to him. And Bavon Lewis's minus 450 line is completely unwarranted. Although he should win this fight, I don't know if you can have any relative confidence that Lewis can get this man out of here and play the under. But I'm going to say this is a hard pass, but I'm going to take Bavon Lewis for a nice layup win. In the next fight, we got Jamal Hill versus Darko Stosic. Another one, we got one coming off the Contender Series. And a guy, to say the least, throws about 10 punches around. And I think that is going to be hard for him to win by decision because of his such low output. And I honestly think he could make 185 pounds if he was really disciplined. But this dude is the Crow Cop protege. Hill's pretty athletic, but he's honestly very green. I think he's 6-0 or 7-0. And I really have no confidence in any of these, but I'm going to have to play Stosic by maybe a leg kick TKO, to be honest, in the second round, and maybe to expose Hill's greenness on the feet. But honestly, this fight's just going to be relatively crazy on the feet. And it's really a 50-50 toss-up. This is the perfect definition. This is a hard pass. But I'm going to take Darko Stosic, the boy. Next fight, we have Angela Hill versus Hannah Cifers. Angela Hill minus 170, Hannah Cifers plus 150 from North Carolina. Make the risky play, not always the smartest one. You're looking at this fight right off the bat and saying, Hannah Cifers is very undersized for the weight class. She just lost to Macy Barber, who just lost to Roxanne Modafferi. Angela Hill, been very active, fights at a good camp, can probably outclass her on the feet because Cifers does not offer much offense in different variety. She kind of just has an overhand right and likes to grapple. But To my understanding, she is also from North Carolina, and women's fights tend to be close decisions unless there's some crazy, crazy finish. And with that being said, I don't know if she's really going to deserve it, but I'm going to have to play a calculated risk pick, and Hannah Cyphers at plus 150 versus Angela Hill for a decision. Next fight up on the card, we have Alex Perez versus Jordan Espinosa. The lightning bolt, a.k.a. the Flash, not Jared Gordon. But we have Alex Perez versus Jordan Espinosa, the 125-pounders. You know what to expect. Don't sleep on 125. These guys are awesome. They blend everything well together. They're super fast. But ultimately, I don't think minus 245 on Perez is actually a playable thing. But I do think he's going to win quite handily, and I think that he's going to get him out of there, but it's going to be later in the fight. Probably once Jordan Espinosa's speed and dynamic movement starts to become limited, once he expends more energy. And I'm going to take Alex Perez by third round TKO. And the last two fights, we're going into the co-main event. RDA Rafael Dos Nachos, a.k.a. Rafael Dos Anjos, versus Michael Chiesa in his third fight at 170, fighting the gatekeeper of the division. And looking this right off the bat, you'd say this is a stylistic matchup that's perfect for RDA because he could piece him up on the feet, stuff some takedowns, and really create some problems. But Mike Chiesa can implement a similar game plan to Kamaru Usman or Colby Covington and throw him up against the fence and make life really rough for him. But in the reality of this situation is when Chiesa doesn't get on top and gets some positions reversed and gets put on his back, problems start to arise. And that is why he's listed at a plus 215 favorite. And I'm not going to lie to you and say he has no live dog probability, but he does. But ultimately, I'm going to take RDA to probably win by a third-round submission and basically take Chiesa to the trenches and piece him up on the feet. And now we're going to go to the main event. We got Curtis Razor Blaydes versus Junior Cigano, a.k.a. the Gypsy Dos Anjos. We got the Irish Gypsy, Brett Johns. We got the freaking Brazilian Gypsy in Junior Dos Santos. But right off the bat, I really, really like Blaydes in this matchup because he exposes guys with his wrestling. This is a DraftKings play for sure. But I definitely wouldn't play the under on this because Curtis Blaydes likes to make guys suffer. But at a minus 250 price tag, that's one of my rules. Never play heavyweights at minus 250 or over because it's the sketchiest division in the history of the UFC. But I could see Curtis Blaydes finishing Junior Dos Santos in the fourth round after completely gassing him out and getting an elbow finish in about, one would say, a half guard. And I really think that this card is going to be very exciting because of the matchups. And I really hope you guys enjoy this. It's Sally Pots and Bands. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys later.